meeting's now live.
Okay, thank you. Right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Schools Forum. I'm Dave Jones, and I'm chairing the meeting today. Just want to remind you, members of the public are invited to view this meeting online, and the meeting is recorded. We are meeting virtually in response to the limitations placed on governance by the COVID-19 pandemic. The City Solicitor has advised that pursuant to Section 78 of the Coronavirus Act 2020, this meeting will be run by reference to the model standing orders as set out in the Local Authorities Coronavirus Flexibility of Local Authority Meetings Regulations 2020, number 392. Forum members are requested to keep their microphones on mute and to only turn these on when they're called to speak. If you have any questions or comments to make on the reports, please use the chat function and simply state RTS, request to speak. So I'm going to start by, if I can confirm that everyone taking part today are present. So if I go through my list, and if you can just say hello. So Jackie Collins.
Hello.
Thank you. I'm here. David Japes has given his absence as he would normally be chairing this. Cher Doyle.
Hello. Yes, I'm here.
Jason Crouch.
I'm here, Chair.
Joe Cooper. Okay, no Joe. Sean Preston.
Yeah, I'm here. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Nathan Waits.
Yeah, I'm here, and can I also offer my apologies for not sending apologies to the recent meeting in January.
Thank you very much. We'll accept those. Nis Hardingham. No Nis. Sharon Burt. No Sharon. Councillor Susie Horton.
Hello, I'm here. Thanks, Dave.
I believe we have apologies from Claire Udy. So Councillor Judith Smythe.
I'm here, Chair.
Councillor Lynn Stagg.
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Councillor Terry Norton.
Yes, thanks, Dave. I'm here.
Simon Barrable.
Yeah, hello, everyone.
And Cara Jewell. No Cara. Okay, and the officers, we've got Alison Edgerton.
Yes, I'm here.
Angela Mann, who's having trouble with her internet, but he's on at the moment. Okay. Alison Jeffrey.
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
Thank you. Mike Stoneman.
Yes, I'm here, Chair. Hi, Dave. And just to mention, I think we've got Laura Flitton here today as well from Court Lane Junior. I can't remember, Laura, if you're here an observer, whether you're here as a member. I've forgotten what the arrangement was, but just to mention you.
I think I'm here to observe for this meeting.
That's right, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
But that's hi, Laura, and that's soon to be to join the board.
That's
anyway.
our hope. Yeah.
That's the plan, I believe. And Lisa Gallagher from who's recording the meeting. Thank you, Lisa.
Hi, Chair. Present today.
Thank you. Brilliant. So obviously we've gone through who's here, but Alison, do you want to talk through apologies? We've had David.
Yes, we've had David Jeeves sent his apologies, as has Councillor Claire Udy.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, Julia's here as well. Sorry. Thank you, Julia. Well on my list. Thank you. Declarations of interest. So that's only the opportunity if there's been any changes since your declarations. So, or is there anything outstanding as well, Alison?
There's nothing outstanding at the moment.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So, Alison, can we move on to item 3, which is membership changes?
Okay. So, as at the this week, we have had a academy sponsor come to us and say that they'd like to be part of the secondary academy representatives on Schools Forum, and that's Chris Purnell from the Thinking Schools Academy Trust, and he's be joining us on the 26th of May as his first meeting. That means I still have 2 secondary academy vacancies. I will be sending a note out after this meeting, just reminding people that the forum is here and, you know, we'd like some membership. And we have, with regard to the primary academy representatives, at the moment I've got 2 vacancies, but I'm hoping that after this meeting that Laura will join us from Court Lane Junior. So I will update people after the meeting. With regards to tenures that are due to expire before the next meeting, Nathan Waits, your tenure is due to expire, I think, on the 26th of May. So I'll give you a ring after the forum or drop you an email just to see whether you're still interested in maintaining your membership. And that's all I've got on the members.
Okay, that's great. Welcome, Nis, who's joined us. Hello. Okay, if we item 4 then, minutes of the previous meeting, which starts, I believe, on page 5. So we need to ensure this is a correct record of the meeting held on the 13th of January. Are members happy with these as a correct record? You got any questions, please use the chat. If not, okay, we will minutes of the previous meeting have been approved. Matters arising from the last minutes. I saw 2 things, which were banding rates and the early years additional grant, and both of those are on the agenda in the papers today. Was there anything else that I've missed that needs to be picked up as matters arising? No. Okay, in that case, we will go on to item 5, the DSG for 21-22 starts on page 11, and I think Angela's going to take us through that as long as her internet works. Okay, Angela, over to you.
Thank you, Dave. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Brilliant, thank you. So this report follows earlier reports to Schools Forum and the Cabinet Decision Days and shows the initial determinations of the schools' budgets for 21-22. It also sets out the high needs block budgets. In particular, it sets out the projected number of specialist places and the associated budgets, along with the mainstream Element 3 top-ups. It also includes a proposal to increase the Element 3 top-ups in special schools, inclusion centres and mainstream by 2%, which Dave referred to earlier was an action brought forward from the last meeting that we had. The high needs budget that's detailed also includes hospital and medical budgets, the early years complex needs inclusion fund, portage, sensory impairment, and they're all detailed in the budget. The report goes on to request approval endorsement to go out to consultation to see how we can build on the work to increase the successful reintegration of the pupils from alternative provision. And finally, the report asks for approval for any carry forward balances to be used to assist with continued introduction of the reform of changes and also to fund any potential financial pressures arising in 21-22. And I'd welcome any questions.
The only question I've got is a bit about the turnaround project, about just if there's any detail of what that is. I don't know who's best to answer that. Is it Julia?
It might.
Yeah, I can come in to begin with, and others can contribute. So yeah, the turnaround turnaround project has been funded through some external funding through the Innovation Fund and has been particularly successful at reintegrating pupils in Key Stage 3 at the Harbour School back into mainstream through a sort of a holistic approach, which has included pastoral support within the Harbour School and working with families and schools to support a short stay in the Harbour School and then a reintegration back into mainstream. It is, however, quite an expensive programme, and the funding has come to an end. So we're looking to see whether we can continue with it, and we want to do some consultation with our secondary heads and other colleagues to see how we could work up a model and how that might be funded going forward, with potentially an ask from Schools Forum with regard to some funding from the high needs block, which is why we want to flag it here in today's meeting. So it's flagging it to members today with a view to coming back probably in May with a more detailed proposal once we've completed that consultation. So that's in summary what it's about. But I've got other colleagues, so Julian may want to say a few words, and Niz, I know, has been involved in this and may also want to say a few words as well. Thank you.
I think that's covered it from my perspective. Just to say that the evaluation of the project was really positive in terms of increasing the numbers of children who were successfully reintegrated back into their mainstream schools. So that's certainly something that we want to continue to build on in any model that goes forward, because obviously if we fill places at our specialist provision and then can't free those places up, then that has additional costs on the high needs block, because we're having to commission more places to cater for those needs. So we really want to make sure that we've got that throughput, and where children can be reintegrated to their mainstream school, that we're really making the most of those opportunities. So we want to kind of build on that approach that's been very successful over the last 18 months.
Yeah, and I completely endorse everything that Mike and Julia have said. From my point of view, I was involved in the turnaround project from the outset and chaired the governance around that grant funding, and also that fed into our work that we've done with regards to inclusion across the city. Speaking as a secondary head, I've seen a significant jump forwards in the quality of that short stay alternative provision and the impact it's had on children and families as a result of that specialist wraparound, the provision. And therefore it has allowed more children to remain in secondary schools and to retain places in secondary schools, which has kept down our numbers of potential permanent exclusions and has held off some of the increased pressures that we might have seen on SEMH Harbour School places, and that push for alternative provision places alongside those single registered places as well. So Mike said it's quite a lot of money. Personally, I don't think it is a great deal of money. I think it's quite a small investment really for the investment in inclusion across the city. And what we're saying, if we're saying as Portsmouth Education Partnership, inclusion is at the heart of what we're about in education, and we know that we've got pressure on the high needs block, then we need to be prepared to fund some preventative projects in order to prevent that pressure on the high needs block, in the same way as we're doing with the monitoring and review expenditure of £180,000 a year to look at preventing the pressure as well. So it's a different means of a similar sort of strategy that the monitoring and review strategy is.
Thank you, everyone. Sounds like a great project. Okay. Can't see any more questions on the DSG. Just giving everyone a last opportunity. No. Okay. In that case, this is for everybody now. So we've got the 5 endorsements that you can see in front of you there. Alison, do I have to read them all out word by word, or can we just have the 5 endorsements?
I believe you can just have the 5 endorsements.
Wonderful. Okay. Okay, so we have the 5 endorsements. do we have a proposer to approve the recommendations? Thank you. That's Cher. Okay. And a seconder. Brilliant. We have who was first? There. Nis. Oh, Jason and Nis. Okay, so the recommendation has been proposed and seconded. I'll now take the vote by affirmation of the meeting as permitted within the regulations. If there is no dissent, the proposal is passed. Are there any objectors to these recommendations? No, so thank you. Those recommendations have been approved. Wonderful. So we'll move on to item 6, which is on page 35. Starts on page 35. The Early Years Providers COVID-19 Additional Grant. And Mike, I believe you're going to talk us through this element.
Bear with me. Okay, yeah, I'm happy to do a summary. Okay, so what we're looking for is an endorsement really from the forum to pay early years providers some additional funding in the form of a grant to support further sustainability within the market, given the pressures the early years sector is under. And this would apply to providers who offer funded early years provision for 2, 3 and 4-year-olds. The background to this, just very briefly, is that you'll be aware, or you previously came to Schools Forum last year in December to seek approval for some proposals to pay grant funding to early years providers to support future sufficiency and also the recovery following the pandemic, which obviously we're still in terms of the lockdown. And there was an agreement to pay our early years providers and childminders funding. It was £2,700, and for childminders it was £500, and that was really very well received by the market and has supported sustainability going forward. We did say, however, that we would look again at this when we were clear about the funding and outturns later in the spring term. And so we've put forward some recommendations, potential grant payments for a further grant, depending on what the underspend might look like later this year. And that is set out in Table 1, which I hope is fairly clear. And that just sets out what the potential grants might be depending on the position that we find ourselves later in spring. So that, as a very brief summary, is what we're proposing. And the recommendation there is, to endorse the proposed grant values to be paid in the spring term, subject to the forecast year-end position as set out in that Table 1. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Well, so Jason, you've got a question?
Yeah, Mike, I'm assuming we still have the position to be able to come back and reassess this again and provide extra funding should it be needed. We're not locking ourselves down here, are we, to just this being a final payment?
Well, Alison Edgerton might want to come in here and so might Angela, but this would be the final payment in terms of this sort of current round. I mean, we could come back to this again at a further point, but this is actually going to be the sort of final one-off payment as such under this current round. So we may not be coming back again. And in many ways, I hope we aren't going to come back again. I hope we're going to find ourselves in a much better position next year. But in terms of this current round, that would be a final payment. I mean, Alison and Angela, do you want to comment on that?
I'm quite happy to comment. I think with regards to the funding relating to COVID, at the moment, the only legislation change has been to this financial year to allow us to make these payments. Obviously, with the dedicated schools grant, we do get a change in our funding in July when they look at the census data and adjust our funding according to the January 21 census data. With the lower pupil numbers we've got this year, excuse me. Sorry, with the lower pupil numbers we've got this year, we're not clear what the impact will be on our funding mid-year. So at the moment, I wouldn't be proposing to come back with a second grant unless the legislation was to change in the course of the 21-22 financial year.
And thanks for the clarification.
Thank you, Alison. Shay, you had a point?
I suppose just to pick up on that, by in this round, you mean in this financial year? We're not planning to come back to doing
Yeah,
this.
sorry, yeah, in this financial year, yeah.
I mean, I really support the idea that we're doing it at all. I think that's really helpful. But I obviously the long-term effects of COVID are not going to end after this lockdown. So I think revisiting it next year, depending on the context, is something we should still leave open. And I hear you're not actually closing that off. You're closing it off for this year.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions or comments? No? Okay then. So it's recommended that the Schools Forum endorse the proposed grant values to be paid in the spring term 2021, subject to the forecast year-end position as set out in Table 1. Do I have a proposer? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jason. And seconder, Nis, you happy to second then? Okay, there we go. Okay, so the recommendation has been proposed and seconded. I'll now take the vote by affirmation of the meeting as permitted within the regulations. If there is no dissent, the proposal is passed. Are there any objectors to this recommendation? Okay, thank you then. That recommendation has been approved. So that concludes today's meeting. So thank you, everybody. The next meeting is scheduled for the 26th of May. Lisa, I believe you can now end the live stream, but just everyone, it takes a minute. So don't. Okay, so don't say anything you don't want recorded until Lisa's confirmed that.